Screen is visible. Screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Visible.
Fine. Okay. We are discussing about the boundary conditions between two perfect dielectrics yesterday. I'll quickly give a recap of that. Here, there are two regions. One region is having the permittivity epsilon 1, another region has the permittivity epsilon 2. Then the rectangular shape is A, B, C, D, A. We are considering in the direction A to B, B to C, C to D, and D to A in the clockwise direction. The width of the rectangle is delta W, its height is delta H. And the height delta H is divided into 2, that is delta H by 2 lies in region 1 and delta H by 2, remaining delta H by 2 lies in the region 2. Okay, total height is delta H, half of the height, that is delta H by 2, lies in region 1 at the boundary, and remaining delta H by 2 lies in the second region, region 2. Then we also know that the electric field intensity is resolved into two components, that is one normal to the surface, it is En, another one it is tangential to the surface, it is Etan. Similarly for the electric flux density also. This is about the diagram that we are seeing here. Then let us move on to the derivation part. Consider closed path rectangular in shape ABCDA. This is the closed rectangular path ABCDA. We know from the Maxwell's equation, closed surface integral, the closed line integral E bar dot dl bar is equal to closed surface integral, closed surface integral E bar dot dl bar is equal to 0. This is for the rectangular shape. We are applying the Maxwell's equation. E bar dot dl bar is equal to 0 for the rectangular shape. Then if we consider the closed surface integral, as it is a closed surface integral, we have to move from A to B, that is integral A to B E bar dot dl bar plus integral B to C E bar dot dl bar plus integral C to D E bar dot dl bar plus integral D to A E bar dot dl bar, that is equal to 0. Okay, we are applying for A to B and B to C, B C to D, and D to A. Okay, now when we apply that, then and when we equate it to 0 according to Maxwell's equation, the electric field intensity consists of the tangential component and also the normal component. Yes, the tangential component in the region 1, it is E tan 1. The tangential component in the region 2 is E tan 2. The normal component in the region 1 is E1n. Normal component in region 2 is E2n. Based on this, we can write that the total electric field intensity as the sum of tangential component plus the normal component according to the law of parallelogram. According to the law of parallelogram, E1 or the electric field intensity in region 1, it is a sum of tangential component in region 1 plus the normal component in the region 1. Take it as equation 3. Then similarly, we'll be able to write the equation for E2, that is electric field intensity in region 2, as E2 is equal to E2T, that is tangential component in region 2 plus the normal component in region 2, and let it be taken as equation 4. Okay, so this is our equation in terms of E1T and E1N, E2T and E2N. If we want to analyze the boundary conditions, then what we have to take here? The boundary condition. This is the height delta H. We want the conditions to be analyzed at the boundary. Okay, then what should be the height delta H? We have to analyze at the boundary in between the two perfect dielectrics. It's called as two perfect dielectrics because the dielectrics are perfect in nature. That means they have high insulating property. The insulating property is high for these dielectrics, and hence they are called as perfect dielectrics, perfect dielectrics. Okay. Now suppose for such two perfect dielectrics, and considering the rectangular shape, if the height is delta h, and if I want to analyze this surface ABCDA at the boundary, what should be the height delta h? Yes, anybody? What should be the height delta h? Height delta h. We have to find out the conditions nearing the boundary or at the boundary between the region 1 and region 2. So what should be the height delta h? When I will be able to analyze the conditions at the boundary, for what value of delta h?
0.
0, correct? That means if delta h is 0 or delta h tends to 0, AB surface will almost coincide with the CD surface, and that will be along the boundary. Both these AB surface and CD surface, they will coincide and they will be along the boundary almost, and hence that time I can analyze the conditions at the boundary. Hence what I am doing is I am considering delta h tends to 0. Okay, that is as delta h tends to 0. If I make delta h 0, then the integrals that is from B to C and D to A, these integrals will become 0. Yes or no? These integrals B to C, because it is integral of the line B to C and integral of the line D to A. In between B to C and in between D to A, E bar dot DL bar. But here DL bar, that is the height or the width here, it is 0. Delta H tends to 0. Correct? Therefore, the integral from B to C and also the integral from D to A, they will become 0. So we are left out with only two integrals, that is from A to B and C to D. Okay, because of the delta h by 2 tending to 0. As delta h tends to 0, integral B to C and integral D to A become 0, as these are line integrals along delta h and delta h tends to 0. Hence the equation 2 reduces to the previous equation, whatever we have written, this equation, main equation, this will become, I will be having only A to B E bar dot DL bar and C to D E bar dot DL bar, because B to C has become 0 and D to A has become 0. Only two integrals will be there. One is A to B, another one C to D. Hence equation 2 will become integral A to B E bar dot DL bar plus integral C to D E bar dot DL bar is equal to 0. Let this be taken as equation number 5. Okay. Now A to B is in dielectric 1. A to B is in dielectric 1. What will be its component of E in dielectric 1? Component of electric field intensity in dielectric 1. Component of E in region 1. What it will be? It has no normal component. It is lying along the boundary surface. So it has, now we are analyzing for the tangential component. So it is E tan 1. E tan 1. Correct? E tan 1 will be the component of E1 in the region 1. Write it. Component of E is E tan 1, and this I can write it as integral A to B E bar dot DL bar is equal to, and the surface E to B C to D, it is almost constant surface because the region is very less, the area is very less. Okay, hence I can consider the surface A to B and C to D as constant surfaces. If I consider A to B as constant surface, then the E tan 1, it is constant on this surface, and hence I can take E tan 1 outside the integral. Correct? Because it's a constant here. E tan 1 is constant, the area is very less, surface is very less, and hence the tangential component E tan 1 will be almost constant. Therefore, this E tan 1 can be removed out of the integral as if it is a constant. Therefore, I will get integral A to B E bar dot DL bar is equal to E tan 1 integral A to B DL bar. E tan 1 integral A to B DL bar, that is E tan 1. What is the width, students? DL is how much? How much is DL here in this? A to B DL value is
Delta is
Delta W.
Delta W. Yes, delta W. Substitute that. We'll get integral a to b is equal to e tan 1 delta W. Take it as equation number 6. Next, c to d. We have to find out c to d, that is remaining integral c to d e bar dot dl bar. Let us see what it will be. Integral c to d. When I consider integral c to d, again the tangential component e tan 2 will come into picture, because that is there in region 2, tangential component, correct? So if it is e tan 2, again CD is almost a constant surface, it is negligible, the area is very small, and hence the tangential component e tan 2 will be almost constant. If it is so, then I can remove this e tan 2 outside the integral. That is the next equation. Integral c to d e bar dot dl bar is equal to minus e tan 2 delta W. Here what I got for a to b plus e tan 1 delta W. Now for c to d I am getting minus e tan 2 delta W. Why it is so? Why this is minus? Why not same as that of
Sir,
e to b?
opposite direction, sir.
We are moving in the opposite direction.
Opposite
Very good.
direction.
Right. We are moving in the opposite direction. We have to move in a cyclic order, clockwise. A to B, then B to C, C to D. A to B we are moving from left to right. Then C to D we are moving from right to left. That is, both are opposite in direction. Even though magnitudes are same, their directions are opposite. And hence A to B and C to D, we should take them the magnitude as equal and opposite. Therefore, what we'll get here for the formula for integral c to d e bar dot dl bar is equal to the tangential component e for region 2 is e tan 2, so it is minus e tan 2, and the length is same, that is delta W. It will be minus e tan 2 delta W. Let us substitute these two equations, whatever we have got, that is equation 6 and equation 7 in equation 5. Okay, what is the equation 5? Equation is here, integral a to b e bar dot dl bar plus integral c to d e bar dot dl bar is equal to 0, main equation. Okay, let us substitute these two, whatever we have obtained now, in this equation 5. What we will get? What is a to b? Integral a to b e bar dot dl bar is e tan 1 delta W. So here we have to substitute e tan 1 delta W plus integral c to d e bar dot dl bar. What we have got? Integral c to d e bar dot dl bar minus e tan 2 delta W. Okay. So we'll get this a to b integral e tan 1 delta W and c to d integral minus e tan 2 delta W. The equation will be like this. Substituting the two equations in equation 5, we are getting e tan 1 delta W minus e tan 2 delta W is equal to 0, or delta W is common into e tan 1 minus e tan 2 is equal to 0. But width cannot become equal to 0. Correct? Width is a value, it is some value, it cannot become equal to 0. Then if so, e tan 1 minus e tan 2 equal to 0. E tan 1 minus e tan 2 equal to 0, or I can further simplify that and write it e tan 1 equal to e tan 2. This tangential component of electric field intensity in region 1 is equal to tangential component of electric field intensity in the region 2. The conclusion that I can draw from this equation, okay, this equation conclusion is the electric field intensity is continuous at the boundary between two perfect dielectrics. This is a statement that I can make from this particular equation. That is, the electric field intensity is continuous. It is continuous because the tangential component of the electric field intensity is equal to tangential component of electric field intensity of both the regions. Hence, we say that the electric field intensity E is continuous at the boundary between the two dielectric media. Correct? We got this equation. Then next, let us move on to find out the relation for D bar. The relation between D bar and D bar we already know is D is equal to epsilon into E. D is epsilon times E. Substitute here, D is, or D tan 1 is epsilon 1 E tan 1. D tan 1 is epsilon 1 E tan 1, and D tan 2 is epsilon 2 E tan 2. I am using this main equation, D is equal to epsilon E. For tangential flux density, I'm writing d tan 1 is equal to epsilon 1 E tan 1, and for region 2 I'm writing d tan 2 is equal to epsilon 2 E tan 2. Take it as equation number 11. Now I'll rearrange the terms here. D tan 1 by epsilon 1. D tan 1 by epsilon 1, that is equal to E tan 1. Yes or no? Then d tan 2 by epsilon 2, that is equal to E tan 2. What I am getting here, d tan 1 by epsilon 1 is equal to E tan 1. D tan 2 by epsilon 2 is equal to E tan 2. But what is the previous derivation that we have obtained? E tan 1 is equal to E tan 2. E tan 1 is equal to E tan 2. Therefore, I can equate d tan 1 by epsilon 1, that is equal to d tan 2 by epsilon 2. Correct? I can equate these two because E tan 1 is equal to E tan 2. Then d tan 1 by d tan 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. D tan 1 by d tan 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. Epsilon I can write it as epsilon naught into epsilon r. Yes, epsilon naught into epsilon r1. Then epsilon 2 is epsilon naught into epsilon r2. Epsilon naught and epsilon naught in the numerator and denominator will cancel, and hence I will get epsilon r1 by epsilon r2. The final equation will be d tan 1 by d tan 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2, that is equal to epsilon r1 by epsilon r2. Take this as equation number 13. Okay, this is one of the important equations which we will be using in our further derivations. Next, we are applying Gauss law to obtain the normal component. Till now, we have obtained which component, students? Which is the component that we have determined now? Just now, whether it is a normal component or tangential component?
Tangential components.
Tangential component. Let us now find out next the normal component. To find the normal component, we are using the Gauss law, and we are very much familiar about the Gauss law. The Gauss law equation is closed surface integral d bar dot ds bar is equal to q. That is closed surface integral of the electric flux density with respect to the surface is equal to the charge enclosed. When I want to apply this Gauss law to the surface, okay, now I have to use the cylindrical surface here to apply the Gauss law. I am using the cylindrical surface at the boundary. This is the cylindrical surface. Its normal components are dn1 and dn2 in region 1 and region 2 respectively. In region 1, normal component is dn1. In region 2, normal component is dn2. Then the area of the top surface and bottom surface are ds or delta s. Delta h by 2 of the cylindrical surface height is lying in region 1, and remaining delta h by 2 height of the cylindrical surface is lying in region 2. Okay, this is how the cylindrical surface is located at the boundary between region 1 and region 2 with the permittivities epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. Okay, if it is so, then the Gauss integral, the Gauss law applied to this surface will be integral for top surface plus integral of the bottom surface plus integral of the side surface or the lateral surface of d bar dot ds bar is equal to q. But the integral of lateral surface d bar dot ds bar is 0. Why? Why the integral of lateral surface is 0? Because when we want to analyze the boundary condition, the height must be made 0. The height will tend to 0. As this height of the cylinder tends to 0, the top surface almost coincides with the bottom surface, and hence we are getting at the boundary, the conditions near the boundary. Yes, because of this, the area or the integral closed surface integral d bar dot ds bar for the side surface as delta h by 2 tends to 0 will become 0, and only what will remain? Top surface and the bottom surface. Yes or no? But lateral surface integral d bar dot ds bar is equal to 0 as delta h tends to 0. Therefore, the remaining integrals are top integral d bar dot ds bar plus bottom integral d bar dot ds bar is equal to q. D is equal to dn1 for dielectric 1. D is dn1 for dielectric 1 and D is dn2 for dielectric 2. The electric flux density for dielectric 1 is dn1. Electric flux density for dielectric 2 is dn2. Top and bottom surfaces are elementary, they are constant. Top and bottom surfaces are constant. Again, as we did for the analysis for the, that is rectangular surface. Similarly, for the cylindrical surface, top and bottom surface are almost constant, and hence the normal component dn1 can be regarded as constant and taken out of the integral. Similarly, for the bottom surface also, it is an elementary surface, that means it is almost constant surface, and hence the dn2 is constant here over the region of the lower surface, and it can be taken out of the integral. Top and bottom surfaces are elementary or constant. dn1 and dn2 can be taken out of the integral. Therefore, integral top surface d bar dot ds bar is equal to, for the top surface d bar is dn1, it is dn1 integral top surface ds bar, that is equal to dn1 delta s, dn1 delta s. Okay, this is for the top surface, dn1 into delta s. This integral top surface will become, ds bar will become delta s. Then for top surface, dn enters, and for the bottom surface, dn will leave. When we consider the dn component here, normal component for the cylindrical surface, dn2 is leaving the bottom surface, or dn is leaving the bottom surface, and it is entering the top surface. From region 2 to region 1, consider the boundary condition from region 2 to region 1. So this dn, it is leaving the bottom surface and it is entering the top surface, leaving the bottom surface and entering towards the top surface. Okay, so one should be considered positive, another should be considered negative. Okay, accordingly we can write the equation here. For top surface dn enters and for bottom surface it leaves. Therefore, the top integral is this dn1 delta s, but for the bottom it will be minus dn2 bottom integral ds bar, because for the bottom surface it is leaving and for the top surface it is entering. From bottom to top, it leaves the bottom surface and it is entering the top surface, and hence for the bottom surface it is considered as minus dn2 integral ds bar. This will be minus dn2 into delta s is the area of the surface that we have considered, so it is minus dn2 delta s. Now we have to add these two integrals, because according to our equation number 17, we have to add them. If we add these two, what we'll get? Top integral is dn1 delta s, this equation, 18 equation. Then 18th equation. Then equation number 19 is minus dn2 delta s, that is equal to total charge q. But the charge density, surface charge density is charge per unit area, that is q by delta s, or q is equal to rho s delta s. Yes, therefore dn1 delta s minus dn2 delta s, that is equal to q, but q is rho s delta s. Delta s on LHS and delta s on RHS will cancel, and what will remain? dn1 minus dn2 is equal to rho s. Correct? dn1 delta s minus dn2 delta s is equal to q, but q is rho s delta s. Yes or no? So rho s delta s means delta s is common in LHS. Delta s and delta s will cancel. Therefore, what will be remaining? dn1 minus dn2 is equal to rho s. That means at dielectric media, if the dielectric media is considered as ideal, for ideal dielectric media, there will be no free charges. All are bound charges. Am I right? If you consider ideal dielectric media, perfect dielectric, perfect insulator, then there will be no free conductors or no free carriers, and hence the current cannot pass through these media as required. Only when we are applying with the electrical energy there, only then it can pass certain energy, or because of that the conduction will take place. But normally when it is constant, when the conditions are constant, the dielectric media does not consist of any free carriers, and hence the surface charge density rho s can be assumed to be equal to 0. Rho s can be assumed to be 0 because we are considering ideal dielectric media at the boundary. If rho s is 0, dn1 minus dn2 will be 0, or dn1 is equal to dn2. dn1 minus dn2 is equal to 0, or dn1 is equal to dn2. Then dn1 I can write it in terms of epsilon and en1 as epsilon 1 en1, and dn2 is epsilon 2 en2. Therefore dn1 by dn2, when I take this by this, that will be epsilon 1 n1 En1 by epsilon 2 En2. But we know dn1 equal to dn2, so this and this will cancel, it is equal to 1. Correct? dn1 equal to dn2, so this and this will cancel, it is equal to 1. Therefore, en1 by en2 is equal to, rearrange the terms, epsilon 2 by epsilon 1, that is further equal to epsilon naught into epsilon r2 divided by epsilon naught into epsilon r1. Epsilon naught and epsilon will cancel. Therefore, what will remain? en1 by en2 is equal to epsilon 2 by epsilon 1 is equal to epsilon r2 by epsilon r1. This is equation number 24. Okay. Here dn1 equal to dn2. That is the electric flux density. Electric flux density is continuous at the boundary between the two perfect dielectric mediums. The electric flux density is also continuous at the boundary between the two dielectric media with permittivities epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. Okay, this is a conclusion that we can draw from this statement or from this equation. Okay, this is a equation, students. In examination, they will ask, explain the boundary conditions or derive the boundary conditions between two perfect dielectric media. This will be the possible question in the examination. Okay, derive the boundary conditions between two perfect dielectric media. Then you have to draw this figure and write all these equations. Okay, so it's a big equation, it's a bigger one. Okay, try to write main points, judge your answer based on the marks asked, and accordingly you either condense your answer if it is asked for less marks, or you expand your answer if it is asked for more marks. Accordingly, you have to cover the points based on the marks that is allotted for the question. Okay. Next is refraction of d bar at the boundary. Here we are considering the refraction process. All of you know about the refraction process, refraction of light. Correct? In your PU level, you have studied in physics, refraction of light energy. Here we are studying refraction of electromagnetic waves in this subject. So when it is refraction of the electromagnetic waves from media 1 to media 2, what will happen? The waves will bend when they move from one medium to another medium. That is what we call as refraction. Correct? When the waves move from one media to another media. For example, here D2, it is moving here from one media to another media. In D1, in media 1, there is a bending. There is a bending of the waves. There is a refraction. Correct? So this process is called as the refraction. Let us consider two media, epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. Then dn1 is the normal component in first media. d-tan1 is the tangential component first media. Then dn1 bar is a resultant. It is at an angle theta1 with dn1 normal component. Similarly, in the media 2, dn2 is the normal component which is equal to dn1, because the normal component will remain the same. Normal component is normal to the boundary, so it will remain the same whether it is dn1 or dn2. Hence dn1 is equal to dn2 here. Both are same. Okay, both are same. dn1 and dn2 are same. Only the refraction wave that is taking place, that will be different. The refracted radiation, okay, the refracted beam, that will be different. Then d2 bar, which is the incident ray, so that is making an angle theta2 with the normal dn2, and the opposite component here, it is d-tan2, that is our horizontal component perpendicular to the normal component, it is d-tan2. This is the introduction to the refraction process. Directions of d bar and e bar change at the boundary between the two dielectrics. Let d1 bar and e1 bar make an angle theta1 with normal to the surface. d1 bar is making an angle theta1 and d2 bar is making an angle theta2 with the normal to the surface. d1 bar and e1 bar directions are same because d is equal to epsilon into e. Therefore, the direction of d and e are same. Direction of d and e are same. d1 bar is equal to d1 and d2 bar is equal to d2. I hope everybody are following here, students. Yes, students, any difficulty up till here? Students?
No, sir. Understanding, sir.
Understanding. Good. So let d1 bar is equal to d1 and d2 bar is equal to d2. That is absolute value I'm taking. Absolute value of d1 bar I'm taking it as d1. Absolute value of d2 bar I'm taking it as d2. Then the normal component of flux density dn1. Let us find out that. If we take cos theta here, cos theta 1, it is adjacent side dn1 by d1. Correct? Cos theta is adjacent side dn1 divided by hypotenuse d1. So dn1 will be d1 cos theta 1. Cos theta 1 is dn1 by d1, or dn1 will be d1 cos theta 1. Write it. dn1 is d1 cos theta 1. Similarly, for the region 2, cos theta 2, if I take, it is adjacent side is dn2, hypotenuse is d2. dn2 by d2, or dn2 is d2 cos theta 2. dn2 is d2 cos theta 2. Write it. dn2 is d2 cos theta 2. But we know dn1 is equal to dn2 from the previous derivation. Am I right? From the previous derivation here, dn1 is equal to dn2. Yes, let us make use of this. dn1 is equal to dn2. Hence, I can equate RHS of both. dn1 equal to dn2, LHS are same. Therefore, I can equate the RHS. d1 cos theta 1 is equal to d2 cos theta 2. Okay, take it as equation 3. Next, let us use the derivation d tan 1 by d tan 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. This also we have derived in our previous derivation. d tan 1 by d tan 2. Here it is. d tan 1 by d tan 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2, that is equal to epsilon r1 by epsilon r2. This we have derived in our previous derivation. Yes, let us make use of that. d tan 1 by d tan 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. But d tan 1 is d1 sine theta 1. Let us take sine of theta 1. Sine of theta. Sine of theta 1 is opposite side, that is same as d tan 1 divided by hypotenuse, that is d1. Sin theta 1 is equal to opposite side. Opposite side is nothing but it is equal to d tan 1. Both are parallel and equal. So it is sin theta 1 is equal to d tan 1 by d1, or d tan 1 is equal to d1 sin theta 1. d tan 1 is d1 sin theta 1. Similarly, d tan 2 will be d2 sin theta. We look into region 2 here. Region 2, tangent of theta 2 is d tan 2 by dn2, or dn2 is equal to d tan 2 theta 2. Okay. Sorry, sin theta 2. Sin theta 2, not tangent. Sin theta 2 is opposite side d tan 2 by d2, or d tan 2 is d2 sin theta 2. d tan 2 is d2 sin theta 2. And divide one by another. d1 sin theta 1 by d2 sin theta 2. This will be epsilon 1 by epsilon 2, because d1 sin theta 1 by d2 sin theta 2 is d tan 1 by d tan 2. d tan 1 by d tan 2 is further equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. Take it as equation 5. Then tan theta 1 is d tan 1 by dn1. Let us check what is d tan 1. Theta. Tan theta 1 will be opposite side, that is d tan 1 by adjacent side, that is dn1. Tan theta 1 is d tan 1 by dn1. Correct? Opposite side is d tan 1. Adjacent side is dn1. d tan 1 by dn1. Tan theta 1 is d tan 1 by dn1, and tan theta 2 is d tan 2 by dn2. Correct? Therefore, tan theta 1 by tan theta 2. Tan theta 1 by tan theta 2 is equal to, divide one by another, d tan 1 by dn1 divided by d tan 2 by dn2. That will be cross multiplied. d tan 1 by dn2 into dn2 by dn1. d tan 1 by dn2 into dn2 by dn1. That will be our tan theta 1 by tan theta 2. Okay. But we know dn2 is equal to dn1. Just now we took here dn2 is equal to dn1. This one. dn2 is equal to dn1, or dn1 is equal to dn2. Accordingly, tan theta 1 by tan theta 2 is equal to d tan 1 by d tan 2. That is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. Correct? The previous one that we used here. Here d tan 1 by d tan 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. So tan theta 1 by tan theta 2 is equal to d tan 1 by d tan 2. That is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. Epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. Okay. Then tan theta 1 by tan theta 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. That is epsilon 1, I can write it as epsilon naught into epsilon r1 divided by epsilon naught into epsilon R2. Epsilon naught and epsilon naught will cancel. I will get epsilon R1 by epsilon R2. That is tan theta 1 by tan theta 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. That is epsilon R1 by epsilon R2. Okay, take it as equation number 7. So this particular law is called as law of refraction. Law of refraction. That is, if epsilon 1 is greater than epsilon 2. Suppose if epsilon 1 becomes more than epsilon 2, what will be theta 1 with respect to theta 2? If epsilon 1 is more than epsilon 2, whether theta 1 will be more than theta 2 or less than theta 2? Yes. Epsilon 1 is more than epsilon 2. What is the relation between theta 1 and theta 2?
Theta 1 more than theta 2.
Theta 1 more than theta 2. Very good. Theta 1 is more than theta 2 because they are directly proportional to each other. Tan theta 1 is directly proportional to epsilon 1. Tan theta 2 is directly proportional to epsilon 2. Now magnitude of d bar in the region 2 is obtained like this. Magnitude of d bar in the second region, that is d square. We are taking the Pythagoras theorem here. d2 square, apply the Pythagoras theorem, is the right angle triangle. d2 square is equal to d tan 2 square plus dn2 square. The hypotenuse square is equal to square of the opposite side plus square of the adjacent side. d2 square is equal to d tan 2 square plus dn2 square. Write it. d2 square is equal to dn2 square plus d tan 2 square. dn2 is equal to dn1. dn2 is equal to dn1. Here it is. This relation. This one. dn2 is equal to dn1. But what is dn1? dn1. Write it. dn1 is d1 cos theta 1. dn1 is d1 cos theta 1. Substitute this in place of dn2 as d1 cos theta 1. So in place of dn2, d1 theta 1 square plus d tan 2 square. Now d tan 2 is equal to d2 sin theta 2. Go to equation number here 4. d tan 2 is d2 sin theta 2. d tan 2 is d2 sin theta 2. But d2 sin theta 2, if we rearrange the terms here, d2 sin theta 2, it will be d1 sin theta 1 into epsilon 2 by epsilon 1. Correct? d2 tan 2 is equal to d2 sin theta 2. But d2 sin theta 2, if I rearrange this term, d1 sin theta 1 by d2 sin theta 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2. Right? In terms of d2 sin theta 2, what will be the equation, students? d2 sin theta 2 is equal to d1 sin theta 1 into epsilon 2 by epsilon 1. Correct? d2 sin theta 2 is equal to d1 sin theta 1 into epsilon 2 by epsilon 1. Just I am doing that. Here will be d2 sin theta 2 is equal to d1 sin theta 1 into epsilon 2 by epsilon 1. Therefore, d2 square will be d1 cos theta 1 square plus d2 d tan 2 square. d tan 2 tan theta 2 is nothing but tan 2. Sorry, not that theta 2. Theta 2, it is d tan 2 square. That is d1 sin theta 1 epsilon 2 by epsilon 1 square. So if I simplify this equation, if I take the square root, I will get d2 is equal to d1 square is common. Okay, d2 square will be equal to d1 square into bracket cos theta 1 square plus sin theta 1 sin square theta 1 epsilon 2 by epsilon 1 square. d1 square is common. So if I take the square root, it will be d2 is equal to d1 square root of under square root cos square theta 1 plus epsilon 2 by epsilon 1 square into sin square theta 1. Okay, this will be the equation for d2 if I take the square root of the above equation. Similarly, I can find the magnitude of E2. Magnitude of E2 can be found out as we found out for d2. Okay, and that I will be writing it as E2 is equal to E1 into square root of sin square theta 1 plus epsilon 1 by epsilon 2 square into cos square theta 1. Here what we have taken? We have taken for d here. Okay, we have taken for d. If we take the components of E and if we derive the equation, then this is the equation that we are getting. This is the equation that we will get. E2. E2 will be E1 into square root of sin square theta 1 plus epsilon by epsilon 2 square into cos square theta 1. So this equation indicates that wherever epsilon is larger, the d is larger. For example, if epsilon 2 is larger, d2 will be larger. They are directly proportional. If epsilon 1 is larger, then d1 will be larger. Right? Then the second equation shows that the electric field intensity will be larger where E1 is smaller, epsilon 1 is smaller. If epsilon 1 is smaller here, then E2 will be, E1 will be larger. correct? Wherever the permittivity is less, the electric field intensity will be more. It is inversely proportional, correct? If epsilon 2 is less, E2 will be more, inversely proportional. Okay, this is for equation 1, they are directly proportional. For equation 2, they are inversely proportional. Then if we make theta 1 as 0 here, what will be D2? Yes, please. If we make theta 1 equal to 0, what will be D2? If I make theta 1 as 0 here in this equation, equation 9, what will be D2? Sin square theta 1, sin square 0 is 0.
D1.
Yes, please. You are right.
Cos square 0 1.
See, sin square theta is 0. So sin 0 is 0. So this term will become 0. Here cos is 0. Cos 0. Okay. So cos 0 means it is 1. Is 1. Okay. Just a minute, please. So cos 0 is 1. So it will be D2 is equal to D1. Correct. Then here it will be E2 equal to E1 when theta is 90. Theta is 90. Cos 90 is 0. So this term will become 0. Sin theta, sin 90 is 1. So 1 square is 1. So E2 will be equal to E1 when theta 1 is equal to 90 degrees. Okay. This is the conclusion that we can draw from these equations. In today's class, students, we have discussed two important derivations, which may be asked in examination. One is to derive the boundary conditions between two perfect dielectrics. Okay, we have derived the boundary conditions. Then another one is to find out the equation for d bar at the boundary whenever there is a refraction. Okay, so derive the equation for d bar at the boundary due to refraction of the electromagnetic wave. That may be the possible question in the examination. Derive the equation for d bar due to refraction at the boundary. If that question is asked, then you will have to draw the figure and then derive these equations. Okay, tan theta 1 by tan theta 2 is equal to epsilon 1 by epsilon 2, that is epsilon r1 by epsilon r2. And when these equations, d2 is equal to d1 into square root of cos square theta 1 plus epsilon 2 by epsilon 1 square sin square theta 1, and d2 is equal to e1 into square root of sin square theta 1 plus epsilon 1 by epsilon 2 square cos square theta 1. Okay. The next class we will continue the concept of capacitance. Okay, and there are few derivations on capacitance, that is energy stored in the capacitor, series capacitances, capacitance connected in series, capacitance connected in parallel. We'll take up that in the next class. Okay, I hope everybody understood here, students. Any difficulty here in these derivations? Yes, please. Any difficulty, students? The derivations, students. I hope everybody followed here. Harshigowda.
Understood, sir.
Deepa Rathod. Understood. Good. Deepa Rathod.
Yes, sir.
Deepa. Understood,
Yes, sir.
Deepa.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Understood.
Rutvik. Fine. Rutvik.
Yes, sir.
Was it understood, Rutvik? Derivations?
Yes, sir. Understood. Yes, sir. Understood.
Okay. Good. Sankalp.
Yes, sir.
Sankalp. Understood
Yes, sir.
the derivations, Sankalp? Derivations?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir. Understood.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. Fine, students. Then we'll continue in the next class. Thank you.